The ads in favor of Initiative 1634 would indicate it's all about groceries. The opposition campaign says it's all about soda.
This is a made-up, artificial political problem.
State Senator Reuven Carlyle of Seattle and others who oppose I-1634 point out that big beverage corporations have poured around $20 million into the Yes campaign, money that's largely funded this flood of TV advertisements.
So I'm announcing today legislation that will require the corporate logos of the actual companies actually investing in initiatives be placed on every advertisement.
The opposition may not like the fact that there's a lot of money in this, but to say that they're buying the campaign, I would say is false, because at the end of the day, the voters are going to make that decision.
The Yes to Affordable Groceries campaign points out that the top 5 contributors are listed in the fine print of the ads, if you can read them. But critics call the advertisements misleading because the measure is largely seen as an effort to block future soda taxes in Washington state. Basic grocery items are already exempt from a sales tax here. But I-1634's campaign says it's not about a sales tax. Pete Lamb of Teamsters Local 174, speaking on behalf of the measure, says it's targeting the state's so-called privilege tax. That's the statute that Seattle's new soda tax falls under.
Now, am I going to tell you that there are taxes that are being proposed in regards to meat or dairy today? No, I'm not going to tell you. I've been very honest about that from the very beginning. But this whole notion that because no one is talking about a tax means it's never going to happen, that's not true. History will tell us that.
The opposition campaign, formerly called the Washington Healthy Kids Coalition, argues the political contributions point the finger back at soda, and they also argue local cities should be the ones to decide what's best.
Preempting local authority is the nuclear option by Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, and Red Bull. There's not an ounce of threat that there's taxation of groceries in this state.
I do want to note, though, that I'm still waiting for an answer back, waiting to learn more about what's covered or not covered under the state's privilege tax provision. Meanwhile, we have much more information on this initiative as well as a debate on it on our website, king5.com/politics.
Natalie, thank you so much.